But the two men getting ready to leave those planes think they matter.
But
And
Vladimir Putin is a killer and Donald Trump isn't. And that's a different level
well, I
of
think
thinking about it.
I mean,
no,
I
I'm not talking
think
about in
there's
a
a lot of people
boardroom.
in Iran that would probably suggest that that might be different, that you might be undercutting the president of the United States on the willingness
I don't think
to
you
use
want
the
to argue
ultimate
this
power.
one. I'm paying him a compliment.
To see so far is the first couple of moments, really the pageantry of both men leaving their planes, shaking hands on the red carpet. But I do think there's a lot of meaning in those first moments. Charlie, I think that those moments, quite honestly, at least in aesthetics, were owned by President Trump. I mean, he literally towered over Vladimir Putin. Yeah. He seemed like the host. He is the host. And the B-2 bombers flying overhead were an incredible display of strength.
That was amazing. And they may very well have been a couple of the B-2 bombers that we sent over to Iran to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, which, of course.
It's funny the boomers get all hyped up about this stuff. I mean, I heard Nick Fuentes talk about this and how Trump flying the B-2 bombers over Putin's head was equivalent to, like, you know, a rapper holding up a stack of money to his ear. It's like totally unnecessary nonsense showing them strength. I mean, I'm pretty sure Russia knows what we can do to them if we need to. You know, God forbid our president is there to actually get the job done and just make sure that peace deals get done. No more tax dollars are wasted into the nonsense wars. That should be the only goal here. Not, you know, let's fly a B-2 over the head. Let's waste a bunch more money on fuel for no reason.
Was at least partly funded by this man right here in this country. So it was extraordinary. But of course, you know, the military might, as important as all that is, I don't think is the only thing that brought Putin to the table. What brings Putin to the table is President Trump's willingness to use what I would argue is even maybe more powerful than our military, which is our economic might. And Vladimir Putin, along with other world leaders, have come to realize that Donald Trump is somebody who means what he says, whether he's talking about the military or whether he's talking about using economic leverage. One of my favorite things, I mean, my favorite thing was the B-2 bombers going overhead. It was extraordinary. And if you get the wide screen shot, you could see Putin kind of looking up like this as they fly over. He had to have a moment of wondering, like, oh my goodness, did I just walk into something? But the other thing that I love.
Yo, these people are hysterical. This guy right here. This is a theater person. This is a theater person. Putin was not afraid of this. Trust me.
Was that as soon as they got into the beast and rolled out, the fuel trucks rolled up to Air Force One and began refueling Air Force One as a reminder that if President Trump doesn't like what he sees in the first couple of minutes, he's gone.
Well, and it seems, Katie, though,
presidential,
that's not been the case, and that we could be optimistic. We're roughly 2 hours into this meeting, and although the threat was on the table that President Trump could walk away, you would almost have thought that might have happened by now.
And you'd think he wouldn't go all the way there to have this big meeting for almost 4 years into this war for him just to walk out. I mean, making off the plane with documents and a plan. This is not something that's just thrown together. That is very clearly a process here. And with all the visuals that we saw today of the initial meeting here, my reaction was, this just screams, we're doing this on America's terms. They're doing it in Alaska, which is a place that Russia sold to America in the 1800s, in part to pay for the Crimean War that they lost. The president is saying we're not going to meet in a neutral place like Switzerland to try and make a meeting to have a meeting. They're here to get results. And the lead up into this, just over the past few months, I mean, the president went to NATO in The Hague in June and came out of that with 5% commitments from every single NATO country except for Spain. When he first took office, they were all screaming and whining about having to pay more. There was this threat that President Trump was the one who was going to end NATO, when really he was just reinforcing it. And it took Russia invading Ukraine for the Europeans to wake up, to pay their fair share, to take responsibility for dealing with the threat on their doorstep, on their continent. And then finally, he's been able to squeeze the Russians economically by putting America first, by drilling more here at home, by getting $750 billion in the EU economic deal.
Drilling more here at home, tariffs, yet no prices have gone down anywhere. At least in my state. And I live in a 50-50 state. If anything, my gas prices have gone up. Where's he drilling? On Mars with Elon Musk?
And that pressure seems to have worked.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin asked for this meeting. And Jessica, I think in every commentator you hear a righteous amount of guarded optimism, maybe some skepticism, because Vladimir Putin has not held to his word so many times. However, he did ask for this meeting. And so I think there is a reason for optimism.
I hope so. Listen, I can be a bit of a Pollyanna about these things, and I think that there are certain accomplishments, especially in foreign policy under the Trump administrations, that have been great, like the Abraham Accords. And you don't meet a Republican or a Democrat who doesn't say that that's a good thing. So, great. Like, let's do it. I hope that this goes well. You'll say, though, about Putin asking for this meeting, there was some sort of miscommunication that happened with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, where he said that Putin was signaling that he wanted to make some concessions. And I've been watching, we always put up the asks, like what Zelensky wants and what Putin wants. The Putin column has never changed. The Ukrainians have had to adjust, right, and say, okay, we will cede some territory. Maybe I can live without NATO if you give us another kind of security guarantee. And, we are the host. I didn't particularly like that the press secretary said we're honored to have him. You're not honored to have a war criminal. You're not honored to have a dictator. You're going to do it because you want to try to.
We're not honored to have a war criminal. We're not honored to have a dictator. Didn't the Israeli Prime Minister, President Benjamin Netanyahu, come over here multiple times? He's wanted by the International Criminal Court. His own state was trying to put him on trial.
Agreement, but that part of it wasn't great. But you have these dueling images, and Donald Trump standing there strong. He's bigger than him. Those kinds of things matter. But Putin is still smiling. He's a KGB agent. He always has something up his sleeve. I'm not saying it's plutonium.
Right. He's an extremely smart and intelligent man. People sleep on Putin. This is not dictator dude that just rose to power through force. Like, this is an intelligent man. I mean, go back and watch the interview with Tucker Carlson with Putin. That was a masterclass in how to control conversation and not give away certain information about yourself while still extracting information from your person you're discussing with. Like when Putin said the CIA backed coup in Ukraine, and then he says to Tucker Carlson, he's like, the same organization that you tried to join. That's a genius. That's an extremely intelligent man who knows how to take control of a situation. So Donald Trump being 6'2", 6'3", whatever he is, and fat, I don't think Putin's worried about that. My 2 cents.
But I mean, this is a guy that doesn't care who he kills or what he does. So
Putin's like a black belt in multiple martial arts. Go YouTube it.
I am optimistic, but obviously.
Again, no allegiance to Russia. No allegiance to Russia. I'm a Donald Trump. I'm more of a Donald Trump fan than a Harris fan. But these accusations and even these talking points they're comedy to me.
Obviously, skeptical, especially without Zelensky being there.
I agree with you. All of these little stylistic elements, they matter.
And he thinks about them all the time.
Both men think about them all the time. So it's not so much whether or not.
In this picture alone, who looks more frazzled? Who looks more in control? You make the assessment for yourself. Don't listen to what people tell you. You make the assessment.
Will Cain or Jessica Tarlov believe these matter, but the two men getting ready to leave those planes think they matter.
But Vladimir Putin is a killer and Donald Trump isn't. And that's a different level of thinking about it.
I'm
not talking about
there's
in
a lot of people
boardroom.
in Iran that would probably suggest that might be different, that you might be undercutting the president of the United States on the willingness
I don't think
to
you
use
want
the
to argue
ultimate
this
power.
one. I'm paying him a compliment.
Well, you're using it only in a derogatory way. I'm talking about as your willingness to defend your values in your country. I don't think anybody
He's
could.
a stone cold American killer in the I never killed anyone directly sense. I'm saying Putin kills people.
I think he's a leader willing to do
Also
and
on
pay the ultimate price for everyone in America. But I want to make sure, I want to get Joey in here as well. Go ahead.
Also on the tie game, Trump successfully matched the carpet better than Putin did.
Joey.
People can't afford housing and basic necessities, but nice tie, Trump. Who is this guy?
The carpet matches
This guy has a job?
the tie. Okay.
Exactly.
Listen.
Okay. Sweet, dude.
Is Donald Trump a killer? I don't know.
Just leave it.
I don't care.
Yeah.
If that's the argument for this entire hour, we're in a good spot. But I think we'll go in other places. There's something that Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman talks about in the book on killing. And I talk about this book a lot because it shaped my outlook on how interspecies conflict works. And he says, usually when we go together, we're fight or flight. But there's nuances to that called posture and submission. And just to go, like you said, that Caroline Leavitt said, we're honored to have him. And to take the time to point that out to me that doesn't do anything.
Exactly. It's a waste of time.
Words don't really matter. Similarly, when the Biden administration says don't, those words didn't matter. Nobody listened to them, and here we are. When this administration says we're honored to have him here, whatever, you're throwing red meat at somebody that you want to get to the table and then have a conversation with. Who cares?
Correct.
Actions matter. President Trump has consistently said, I don't want to start wars, and consistently been able and willing to do the difficult things, to send missiles into places, to bomb Iran in order to prevent wars. So in this moment, I have faith in President Trump and his administration, Witkoff included, our Secretary of Defense included, to get us to a better place. But when we talk about who's desperate, who cares, who does this matter most to, Ukraine's sovereignty is not America's sovereignty. That's just the truth. Ukraine's sovereignty should matter much more to NATO than it does, or to the European countries of NATO than it does to us. Part of President Trump's getting elected was to end wars, but also end the spending on wars. That was a very hot topic.
Correct. And he hasn't been. We've got a bigger military budget now under President Trump. And a few weeks ago, maybe a month, he was talking about sending more military aid, arms to Ukraine. Like, this very well could be just a Trojan horse for more military.
The amount of money we spend on wars that we're not fighting. And on top of that, when Zelensky came here, it wasn't Zelensky wanting help winning this war. It was Zelensky very self-righteously saying, you owe it to us, in not so many words, to fund this war for us that really bothered President Trump and Vice President Vance. So I think that Putin has much more disparity in coming here than President Trump has. If Putin walks away and says no deal, President Trump continues his life of trying to make this country a better place. Putin has to go back to his people and say why they need to send 1,000 more bodies to the front line. I don't know that there's any kind of deal going to come from this. And we need to understand there's a big difference between a ceasefire and an ending of the invasion. Mm-hmm. And a ceasefire is President Trump's stated goal with this meeting, probably another meeting after it. That's just step one. I think it was Dan Hoffman that was on earlier that said this looks more like the beginning than the end, and I think that's absolutely true.
All right. All right, up next, our special coverage of the high-stakes Trump-Putin summit continues. Brett Baer joins us next with an exclusive interview with the president.
Click. Yeah, so there were a lot of optics yesterday from that meeting with Vladimir Putin, and the older generation likes the nonsense. The show of power, Trump being taller than him. Just all nonsense to an average person who's just trying to figure out what has gone so wrong in today's world. So we'll be watching more of The Five. We'll be watching other shows, and we'll be giving our 2 cents on what we think. So stay tuned for more. Like and subscribe. Have a good night, guys.